Temporal Forces and Twilight Masquerade have given us some incredibly powerful APEC cards that have quickly solidified themselves in each and every deck in the format. While Shrouded Fable is not our next mainline set, it will be giving us 3 brand new APEC cards, half of what each main set has given us so far. So in this video, we will be taking a look at those revealed cards. Even though there are only 3, they are still worth talking about, especially a certain one that may give some people PTSD for its similarities to a very powerful card from the Black and White era. Without further ado, let's take a look at the 3 APEC cards we will be receiving in Shrouded Fable. Starting off with another first of for APECs. We've had an APEC Energy card in our last 2 sets, so now here is our first ever APEC Stadium card. Neutral Center, which reads, prevent all damage done to Pokemon that don't have a rulebox by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX and Pokemon V. This effect is very powerful considering almost every deck in the format has V and or EX Pokemon that are the deck's main attackers. Some decks do play non-V or EX attackers such as the Radiant cards, Sableye, Cramorant, Cinccino, as well as entire decks being Ancient Box and Snorlax Stall. So while this card is in play, you are pretty much invincible to V and EX Pokemon, even if they try to attack your non-rulebox Pokemon that are on the bench. However, the utility of this card quickly falls apart when you realise it's a stadium, and stadium cards are very easy to get rid of by just playing a different stadium. Plus, a lot of decks in the format are playing Lost Vacuum, and while that's mainly used to remove powerful tool cards, it can also remove stadiums, making this card kind of useless. The effect is very powerful, but given the type of card that it is, and how people are deck building this format, it's not good. Maybe once Lost Vacuum rotates next year, it could see some play, but it's still hard losers to just playing a different stadium over it, and since it's an APEC, you can only play 1 copy. I could be completely wrong about this card, we will have to see, but in my opinion, it's not worth playing. Next up is Pokevital A. I wonder if we'll get a Pokevital B, C, D, etc. This card reads, heal 150 damage from one of your Pokemon. If this card is in your discard, it can't be put into your hand or deck. A once per game heal since it can't be recycled for multiple uses. This card isn't bad considering that most decks in the format are built around high HP evolution Pokemon, meaning that most of the time it will take multiple attacks to KO these Pokemon. Pokevital turns those 2-turn KOs into 3 or maybe even 4-turn KOs, depending on the matchup, meaning you'll be able to get ahead in the prize game or catch up to your opponent if you're falling behind. I can see why they didn't want you to reuse this card, because you could basically stall out your opponent if they can't deal enough damage to knock out your Pokemon, grab it from the discard, use it again, and then repeat the process every single turn. A decent card that could find its place in certain decks, maybe stall decks or evolution decks like Charizard and Dragapult, but we'll have to wait and see. It all depends on how the format shapes out. And now for the third and final one. Meet the spiritual successor to Hypnotoxic Laser, Dangerous Laser, which reads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned and confused. Compared to Hypnotoxic Laser, this card is actually weaker for a couple of reasons. While it does deal more damage, since Burn inflicts 20 damage between turns while Poison only inflicts 10, Burn is an easier status condition to remove, since after you take the 20 damage at the start of the turn, you flip a coin, and if heads, then Burn is cured. However, back when Hypnotoxic Laser was legal, there was another card called Verbank City Gym, which put 2 more damage counters on poison Pokemon. So instead of 10 damage, it would be 30, which back then was a huge difference, as the HP average was a lot smaller and rarely did Pokemon go above 200 HP. But there is also a very big difference between being confused and being asleep. Hypnotoxic Laser could inflict sleep as well as poison, but you have to flip a coin, and sleep is a very annoying status condition to deal with compared to confusion. Confusion forces the player to flip a coin when they attack. If heads, then the attack will work as normal. If tails, then that Pokemon will take 30 damage. Meanwhile, if a Pokemon is asleep, it can't attack or retreat. And at the end of the turn you flip a coin. Yes, Pokemon involves a lot of coin flipping. If heads, then it wakes up. If tails, then it's still asleep. The big difference between the two is that confusion can be cured by just retreating the Pokemon. while if a Pokemon is asleep, it can't retreat at all, so you have to either use a switch, or a scoop up card, or pray for the coin flip at the end of the turn. A confused Pokemon can still do stuff while an asleep Pokemon is completely useless, so if you hit that coin flip with Hypnotoxic Laser, your opponent could be in a very bad position, and the active Pokemon is not only under the threat of being knocked out from poison, but if they don't have a switch card or something to move that Pokemon to the bench, then they'll just have to pass the turn. There was also the benefit of Hypnotoxic Laser being a normal item card, so you could play 4 and make use of recovery cards to keep using it, while Dangerous Laser is an A-spec, so you can only play it once and that's it, unless you use a recovery card. Even then, the extra damage could help in dealing a knockout, and even if you don't, your opponent will need to use resources in order to remove those status conditions. The card definitely isn't bad and could find its uses and see a fair share of play. The fact that it's not as powerful as Hypnotoxic Laser and much more balanced is honestly a blessing, because that card was very annoying during its legality. Overall, another mixed bag of A-spec cards. It's cool that we are not just limiting A-specs to item and tool cards. We've seen Energy and now Stadium A-specs. Maybe we'll see an A-spec supporter card in the future. Each of these cards are powerful in their own way and could see play depending on the deck and personal player preference. Each one does have its downsides, but that doesn't take away from the fact that they are just as powerful, even if they do have very simple effects. But to be honest, I am worried about the future of A-spec cards, because there is only so much you can do, and eventually we're going to run out of unique effects or cards from previous formats to copy off of. Especially considering these cards will not go out of rotation for the next 2 years. But by then, I imagine A-specs will have stopped being printed and a new type of card will be introduced instead. The choices for players are expanding and will only continue to expand as more A-specs are printed. How long this will go on for, we'll just have to wait and see. The future of A-specs may be coming to a close sooner than we expected, but these cards will definitely leave a lasting impression on the game's history, and maybe we'll see them again in the future.